Okay, so this is the final costume with the Dulocs. The dress has the bodice and the red part on the bottom with the yellow ribbon as a belt with the grommets. We'll show you how to do all of those things, putting them together and sewing it so it looks right. This is the ribbon that will go through the grommets for the corset looking part. This is the undershirt that is separate, that goes underneath the dress. And then this also is the underskirt. So this is the tulle skirt that is completely separate. This one I had to design because we didn't have enough tulle to make it fluffy like what is normally calls for enough tulle. So I'll go through each of them. It is a 2-layer skirt, and when you sew it, you actually open the layers out flat and sew in the middle of each layer. The top layer is the small piece of tulle. The bottom layer is the larger piece. With the 9-inch, there's a sewed part for the gathering stitch right at 9 inches, and the 9-inch portion will be on the top, and the length of the skirt for your daughter, however long tall she is, that longer portion will be on the bottom. Each layer, the bottom layer, also is sewn flat, so you open it up and lay it flat and then sew it after you've gathered it. 1 inch higher is the second layer of tulle. So that is what we're going to go through today. Excuse my basement, I've been sewing for about 2 weeks, so it's still kind of a mess. But this is the pieces that you'll need. For the underskirt, you have a small piece of netting that all of them should have a sewn gathering stitch in the middle. Then you have the larger piece. The thin piece is 4 yards. The large piece, if you see, the 9-inch side and then a longer side with the sewn gathering stitch in the middle. This one should be 8 yards long. Okay. Then the other portions of the underskirt has 2 halves that will make a full circle. So you'll open those up. And there's also a waistband, which you'll either have of the lining material or you'll have it of this type of material. Okay, so it's just a long rectangle. That's the waistband. And then the large piece of elastic. That is what's going to make up the underskirt, is those pieces there. Then we have the undershirt. All right, so the undershirt is going to have a front piece and a back piece, which I've got them set together here. So one has the square front, and you'll open them up once you get it here. So you have the square front and then the rounded neck back. You'll have the 2 sleeves. You'll have the small elastic. There's a right and a left written on them for their right arm and their left arm. Just make sure you put it on right, because a lot of the girls had a little bit different sizes on either side. And a larger piece of elastic that will go around the waist, gathering underneath the bodice, or underneath the breast line. And that one only some of the girls have, because we haven't measured all of their rib cages yet. So if you don't have that piece of elastic, it's not a big deal. Do the whole shirt. The elastic is really easy to add in later. So that is the undershirt parts. All right. Then the dress part has 4 pieces of skirt, which is the big long skirt. Okay. There's 4 identical pieces. Then you're going to have 4 bodice pieces, which have blue crepe back satin. Then you're going to have blue lining and a piece of interface. So you're going to have 3 of each piece, or 3 sets of each pieces, I should say. This is going to be on the fold for the center back, so that each of these 3 pieces are going to be on the center fold. And then you're going to have basically 6 pieces of these, 2 for one side, 2 for the other side, and you've got the lining, the interface, and the actual bodice of the dress. Okay, so there's 4 total pieces to make up the bodice of the dress. Then you have the yellow belt, which is going to be around the belt, obviously. The next part that goes with this, that goes to the undershirt. I'll show you that in a minute. That's the neckline. There are some grommet pieces that you'll see in your bag. There should be 6 total. Looks like we're missing one of these, so that means some of the bags might be missing a couple of pieces. That's okay, we'll get them to you. We have plenty, and there's a zipper as well. This just goes on at the very end, okay? So those are all the pieces that you need to do the whole costume. Okay, so we're going to start with the underskirt. You have 2 of the half circles. These ones don't matter. There's not a right side or wrong side to lining. So you're just going to line them up, and you're going to do a straight stitch on the sides. So you're just going to pin them together, and you're just going to do a straight stitch on both sides, okay? Once you do your straight stitch, so once you get both sides together, the skirt's like almost done. So it's really simple. The next step is to put on the waistband. So you're going to take and you're going to lay your thing out. What I also do is I actually lay this open and serge the bottom edge, but I won't show that on film because not everybody has sergers. But you're going to want to line up the waistband. So you're going to put the shiny sides out because you're just going to attach it together. Or actually, you got to sew it together first. Sorry, hold on. Make sure I have the right size because some of the bands are longer than what this skirt actually calls for. We just were making generic waistbands. So I'm just going to measure. You give yourself about 5/8 hemline, and you just kind of measure to see if this is going to be enough, too big, too small, what you're going to need to do. So this one's going to need to gather the skirt just a little bit, so that's perfect. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the right sides together, first of all. Once you get the right sides together, you're going to just straight stitch the 2 ends together. Okay. So you're going to straight stitch those about 5/8 cent. Alright, so once that is done, then you're going to put the right sides out now, and you're going to fold it in half. You fold the seam over, so it's all folding the same direction. You're going to fold that in half equally, all the way around. And that's going to make the waistband. So now I'm just going to go and I'm going to attach to the right sides. So I'm going to turn this right side out, which is just the seams to the inside. And I'm going to put the seams together on one side, find the middle, and that's going to go on the seam on the other side. Okay? So you're just going to pin this together. Now we have put the skirt together with the waistband. Sorry, I can't think. When you sew it, you're just going to do a straight stitch about 5/8 inch down, 5/8 inch seam, and you're going to leave about 1.5 inches, maybe 2 inches opening so that you can feed the elastic through the waistband. And I do the straight stitch on this one first just because it's easier. You don't have to stitch the waistband first together. I just do it all in one stitch. So I start right at the seam on one side, and I actually start about 1/2 inch before it because I'm going to leave where I don't have a lot of bulky material is where I'm going to leave the opening. So go ahead and sew that now. Okay, so with that straight stitch, we now have the waistband attached to the skirt with a opening for our elastic. We're going to take the large elastic, which mine fell, and all of them have their name on it. So we're doing Zipporah's today. So you're going to put the name of the girl whose costume it is towards the inside, because it actually, you can see, if you push up the material, you can see it through the material. So that's why we're doing it that way. You're going to take, and the easiest way to thread elastic through is to take a safety pin and just stick it on the end, go through this way. You're going to stick it on the end through the elastic so that you use this to you're going to feed this through. So I'm going to go ahead, you just start sticking it in there and bring it all the way through, and then we'll show you how to sew up after you get that done. Pause it. Okay, we bring it all the way around using the paper clip or the safety pin. Once you get it all the way around, make sure your other side doesn't go in, so you're chasing both sides down. But you pull the elastic through, okay? So now we're going to do is we're going to overlap it by 1 inch, okay? So because I gave it 1 inch as for the waistbands. So you're going to overlap it by 1 inch, and you're going to just sew the 2 pieces of elastic together. Make sure before you sew that the elastic is flat and you didn't twist it around. So you make sure that your elastic is flat all the way, and you haven't twisted the band for some reason. Because sometimes that happens, and then you have to unsew it, and it's kind of a pain. So try to make sure it's straight before you sew it the first time. And I sew it on both sides of the overlap. Okay. Once you've done that, we're just going to sew, I'm going to pull it, so there's the skirt. Now we just need to close up that spot that we didn't sew to allow the elastic to be put in. So just going to do a straight stitch there. Close up that little 2-inch section. And then if you have a serger, you're just going to sew that edge. Make sure, and that just gives you a nice clean edge for the underskirt. This makes the majority of the underskirt once it's done, and we're ready to add tulle. And I know a lot of people don't have sergers, so this is just an optional step. Some of these things I can just kind of clean up after all the costumes come. I can serge some edges and things like that just to kind of clean them up if you don't have a serger yourself. So that is now the top part of the underskirt. Okay? Pause. Okay, now we're ready to put on the tulle. The first layer is going to be the layer that is the wide layer. There's one side that has 9 inches, so you can tell this side is shorter than this side, so this is the 9-inch side, and then the longer piece that's going to make up the dress. It's going to go where the 9-inch piece goes towards the waistband, and the longer piece is going to go towards the bottom of the skirt. First of all, we're going to pin it and gather it so that it fits. This is an 8-yard piece. So what you're going to do is kind of give yourself some guidelines. So we're going to go and we're going to fold this in half, and that gives us 4 yards. So at 4 yards, so at 4 yards, it's going to be on one seam. And I'm just going to, you put it right down like I told you before. I like to serge it because that gives me a place of where I'm putting on the tulle. If you can't serge it, that's fine. You just put it on just about maybe a 1/4 of an inch above the bottom of it, and then we can serge later to get that nice clean look. You're going to put it on, and remember, you're putting the 9-inch side up top. So at that, you're going to make sure your 9-inch side, make sure I'm putting it on here right, is to the top waistband. You're going to put this gather stitch right on the line that you want, or maybe just a little bit above it, so that we can actually sew right below. You don't want to sew on that gathered line because we're gonna pull out that gathered thread. It's not the right color. We want to make sure that comes out. So I'm just gonna straight pin it and get my bearings. So that's my 4 yards. So now I'm gonna do half of that again.